Moving on now to company news, Evans Medical has reported a 95% increase in full-year earnings per share to 41 kobo. The pharmaceutical manufacturing company saw revenue increase 6% to 4.8 billion naira, while total comprehensive income soared 165% to 328 million naira. Well, that's on the back of an improved gross margin, which climbed to 54% from 48%, and a tax credit. Well, the Nigerian All Share Index started on a positive note, reaching heights just over 40,600 points, but closed at 38,915.53 points today. Flour Mill leads the gainers chart, followed by CCNN, International Breweries, Julius Berger, and Dangote Flour. The laggards were Nestle, Guinness, Dangote Cement, Nigerian Breweries, and Presco. For more on trade so far, I'm joined by Jimmy Ububine. He's the head of research at Consolidated Discounts. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jimmy. Now, after 7 days of gains, we're finally seeing some profit taken. The market is down by, what, 2.74%? Did you see this coming?
Yeah, everyone had been speculating about when the profit taking would come. But I think there are greater fears ahead. Profit taking is all right, but I think the fear is price correction. If you look at some of these stocks you just mentioned, Nigerian Breweries, Nestle, Dangote Cement, and even PZ, everyone is talking about overvaluation. You're looking at P's of around 33 on Nestle. Unfortunately, you're looking at these kinds of high valuations at a time when even the MD of Nestle has come out. He came out a few weeks ago to say that consumer spending was being affected by the military actions in the north. Because that's a major market, actually. It's a market that is as large as some other African countries, and distribution is being affected in those places, sales is being affected. And he has come out to say that it could affect consumer spending vis-a-vis revenues and earnings on Nestle. So now there are real fears for price correction in some of these stocks. So it goes beyond profit taking. I think we should be looking at the medium to long term. How deep can the price correction come if it does happen?
Well, let's take a look at valuations of some of the highly capitalized stocks and the real sector. Now, many say they are overvalued, just like what you mentioned earlier. Now, starting with Nestle, at the close of trading yesterday, it was over 1,000 naira. Now, however, it came down by about 7%. Now, what's your take on the valuation on a stock like Nestle?
Now, there are two factors here that affect Nestle's valuation. First and foremost, I think it's overvalued. The P is over 30 right now, while the P of the parent company is just about half of that. The P of PZ is 86. And the P of the parent company as well is just half of that. So really there's no basis for the kinds of valuations you're looking at. But what's the reason for this high valuation of these kinds of stocks? Remember, during the downturn in the markets, the biggest block of institutional investors like pension funds were probably out of the system entirely. They were out of the equities market. Exposure to equities was as low as 7 to 9% in some of the biggest PFAs. And now that we can see the upside in the equities market, then you have a herd mentality where people are trying to rush in, latecomers, those who've missed the party, and then that's what's driving valuations in fundamental stocks like Nestle, good old names like Nestle and PZ. But at the same time, we've seen such a rally that right now we are sitting on valuation fears. So like I said, there's room for some price correction in some of these stocks. But whatever room there is for corrections, I think it will be minimized by the fact that these stocks have very low liquidity levels. Nestle has just about 10 to 20% in public floats. Dangote Cement has only about 5% in public floats. So how deep can the price correction go, such that the public floats, the lack of liquidity would always constrict whatever kind of corrections we expect.
But Jimmy, staying in the consumer space, but how about Unilever? Do you think it's the same for Unilever? I mean, it gained about 38% year to date and shed up 2.94 kobo today.
It's the same story for all of them. If you're looking at a portfolio investor, like I was about to say, then what I think would happen is this: we're going to see more of portfolio rebalancing. The banking sector, the best banks, they are still doing P's of 7 to 8, below 10. And so what we're going to see is you're going to see more people rejig their portfolios, move away from some of this consumer space, irrespective of the kinds of upsides we've said in. We always speculate about the Nigerian consumer industry. So you're going to see more people rebalance their portfolios, move into the banking space, especially with names like First Bank. You know, especially when you talk about financial inclusion, what kind of banks do you think would win big as financial inclusion improves? It's going to be the likes of First Bank. And I think investors would actually crunch some of these numbers and do more rebalancing of portfolios. So yes, the equity market may still be buoyant, but I would not be betting on the likes of Nestle now, except I'm bewitched.
Oh, well, let's take a look at Dangote group of companies. Now, they all seem to be investors' toast lately. Now, talking to a trader yesterday, he thought most investors are looking at Dangote Sugar as it's the only company that is yet to sell off a stake. Well, hence, investors are keen towards that particular stock. Now, Dangote Sugar closed up today, and it has gained almost 100% today. Now, do you share that sentiment?
You can't rule out that sentiment, but you've got to... the question is this. Mr. Dangote has shown that he's interested in actually sharing some of his wealth as long as it makes the entire cake bigger. So yes, investors may be correct, but the truth is this. There's no deal on the table right now for Dangote Sugar, at least that I know. He's still expanding. He's talking of backward integration, you know, opening up new sugar plants in the north. So I like the expansion story of Dangote Sugar more than just this speculative play of who is going to buy, because it's the expansion story that determines how much value investors would see, you know, new core investors would see and probably want to also buy into. So if I'm to bet on Dangote Sugar now, it will be on that expansion story, on that backward integration story, and not just out of blind speculation on the next big name, you know, joining me in the stock. No.